I was 36 when I met Sophia at that charity gala in Chicago. Her smile caught my eye across the room, and I found myself drawn to her intelligence and warmth. 3 years later, I proposed on the cliffs of Santorini, and she said yes. We had everything planned, a perfect wedding in Napa, a beautiful future together, and a prenuptial agreement to protect the tech company I had built from nothing. I never imagined I would discover something in those legal documents that would shatter everything I thought we had. Before I continue my story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about relationships, trust, and the unexpected ways life can change in an instant. I grew up in a family that valued hard work and financial responsibility. My parents were not extremely wealthy, but they had built a comfortable life through decades of smart investments and careful planning. They taught me early on that money was something to be respected, not flaunted. Those lessons stuck with me even as I found unexpected success in my late 20s with my cybersecurity startup, SecureShield. By the time I met Sophia, my company had grown to over 100 employees with offices in 3 cities. I had become the kind of person who appeared in business magazines and gave talks at industry conferences. The success brought attention I never sought, including from people who seemed more interested in my bank account than in me as a person. That history made me cautious in relationships. Before Sophia, I had dated a woman for 2 years who eventually admitted she had initially been attracted to my financial prospects. That confession, though honest, ended our relationship. I promised myself my next serious relationship would be built on a foundation of complete transparency and shared values. The night I met Sophia changed everything. The charity gala was supporting technology education for underprivileged youth, a cause close to my heart. I was speaking with a group of potential donors when I noticed her across the room. She was not just beautiful in a conventional sense, she had this presence, this confidence that drew people to her. When our conversation group eventually merged, I learned she was the marketing director for Luxe Moderne, a high-end fashion brand. What impressed me most was how she spoke about her work with genuine passion. She talked about building authentic brand stories and creating marketing campaigns that connected emotionally with consumers. There was no pretense, no name-dropping, just intelligent conversation about her craft. We exchanged numbers that night, and I called her 2 days later to ask her to dinner. Our first date lasted 5 hours. We started at an Italian restaurant downtown, then walked along the river talking until well past midnight. She told me about growing up in Seattle, her journalism degree, and her journey into the marketing world. I shared stories about the early days of my company when I was coding 18 hours a day and living on ramen noodles. What followed was a whirlwind romance filled with weekend trips, long conversations, and the gradual realization that I had found someone special. Sophia was ambitious and driven in her own career, which I deeply respected. She asked thoughtful questions about my business, but never in a way that felt intrusive or calculating. When I talked about the pressure of leading a growing company, she listened with genuine empathy. 6 months into our relationship, I introduced Sophia to my parents during their annual visit to Chicago. They were cautiously warm with her, as they were with anyone I dated. By the end of the weekend, they seemed genuinely impressed. My mother later called to tell me Sophia was different from the others. She could see that she valued me for myself, not what I could provide. Sophia introduced me to her parents soon after. They were divorced, but both lived in Seattle. Her father was a retired professor, her mother a real estate agent. They were welcoming and unpretentious. I could see where Sophia got her work ethic and groundedness. As we approached our 1-year anniversary, I suggested we move in together. My penthouse had plenty of space, and we were spending most nights together anyway. Sophia agreed enthusiastically, and the transition was surprisingly seamless. She brought a warmth to my minimalist space, with thoughtful decorative touches that somehow perfectly complemented my aesthetic. Living together revealed new layers to our compatibility morning routines that naturally synchronized similar preferences for quiet evenings at home, shared enjoyment of cooking together. For the first time in my adult life, I began to let my guard down completely. The walls I had built after previous disappointments gradually lowered in Sophia's presence. I shared my fears about the company future, my complicated relationship with success, even my childhood insecurities. She held these confessions with care, never judging, always supporting. By our second anniversary, I knew I wanted to marry her. I spent months planning the perfect proposal, wanting to create a moment as special as she was. I chose Santorini for its breathtaking beauty and arranged for a private dinner on a cliff overlooking the caldera at sunset. When I knelt and opened the box containing the 3-carat diamond ring, tears filled her eyes. "Yes, of course, yes," she whispered before I even finished asking the question. We spent the rest of that trip in a bubble of happiness, discussing our future together with excitement. It was during one of these conversations that I first brought up the subject of a prenuptial agreement. "I want to be completely transparent with you," I said. "With my company and the assets I have, my lawyers will recommend a prenup. But I want you to know that this is about protection for both of us, not about planning for failure." She surprised me with her response. "I expected that Ashton and I completely understand. My parents' divorce taught me that clarity about financial matters is important even when you never think you will need it." Her maturity and understanding on the subject only confirmed I had made the right choice in asking her to be my wife. The engagement marked the beginning of a new chapter. We set a date for the following summer, a destination wedding at a vineyard in Napa Valley. Sophia took the lead on planning, creating detailed spreadsheets and mood boards. I was happy to defer to her vision while providing input when asked. As the planning progressed, I noticed subtle shifts in her behavior. The wedding she initially described as intimate and personal was evolving into something more elaborate. The guest list grew from 100 to 250. The simple, elegant affair was becoming increasingly luxurious, with imported flowers, custom everything, and a price tag to match. I did not mind the cost. I wanted our wedding to be everything Sophia dreamed of, but I was surprised by the escalation. When I gently questioned the need for certain extravagances, like flying in a specific pastry chef from Paris for the cake, she seemed momentarily offended. "This is the only time I am getting married, Ashton. Do not, you want it to be perfect." Of course I did. So I nodded and approved the growing expenses, telling myself this was a once-in-a-lifetime celebration. Around the same time, I noticed changes in Sophia's spending habits. The woman who once spoke proudly about finding designer pieces at consignment shops was now regularly shopping at boutiques on Michigan Avenue. New shopping bags appeared in our closet weekly: Gucci, Prada, Bottega Veneta. When I commented on a particularly expensive new handbag, she mentioned casually that she needed to look the part as the fiancée of a successful tech entrepreneur. Something about the comment unsettled me, but I pushed the feeling aside. Sophia worked hard and deserved nice things. And if she was considering her role as my future wife in her professional presentation, was that really so wrong? More concerning were the subtle shifts in how she interacted with my family. During our first year together, she had gone out of her way to form a genuine connection with my parents, remembering details about their interests and sending thoughtful cards on special occasions. Now she seemed to find reasons to avoid family dinners, claiming work commitments or wedding planning stress. When she did join, there was a new edge to her interactions with them. When my mother mentioned a charity they supported that helped homeless families, Sophia responded with a comment about how they could probably do more given their resources. My parents exchanged a look I could not quite interpret. The first serious conversation about our finances came 6 months before the wedding. We were sitting in our living room reviewing wedding costs when I suggested we start discussing our broader financial picture. "Have you thought about how we will handle money after we are married?" I asked. "I was thinking we could have a joint account for household expenses and separate accounts for personal spending." Sophia set down her tablet. "Actually, I was thinking it might be simpler to combine everything. Most of my married friends say separate accounts just create complications." I was surprised by this suggestion. Sophia had always been fiercely independent about her career and finances. Her salary as a marketing director was substantial, though not comparable to my income from SecureShield. "I think having some separation makes sense," I said carefully. "We both value our independence, and it allows each of us to make certain decisions without consultation." What she said next caught me completely off guard. "When we are married, should not we be a true partnership? Do you not trust me with your money, Ashton?" The question felt like a trap. Of course I trusted her we were getting married, but maintaining some financial independence seemed reasonable to me. It is not about trust, I explained. It is about what has worked for me all these years. I am used to managing my finances in a certain way. She relented, but I could tell she was disappointed. The conversation left me feeling uneasy, though I could not articulate exactly why. 2 weeks later, we had our first meeting with our respective attorneys about the prenuptial agreement. I had worked with my lawyer David for years and trusted him completely. Sophia had hired Natalie Schwartz, an attorney known for representing women in high net worth divorces. I tried not to read too much into that choice. The initial discussion was straightforward. David outlined what a standard agreement would cover: protection of premarital assets, including my company, and investments provisions for division of assets acquired during the marriage and spousal support parameters. Natalie countered with requests that seemed reasonable enough: a sliding scale for spousal support based on the length of marriage provisions for Sophia to maintain her lifestyle in the event of divorce in consideration for her career, sacrifices if we had children. The negotiations continued over the next few weeks, with documents passing back and forth between lawyers. The process was not particularly contentious, and within 2 months we had an agreement that seemed fair to both sides. We signed the documents in David's office with a notary present. "I do not expect we will ever need this," I told Sophia as we left the office. "But I appreciate your understanding about why it is important." She squeezed my hand. "I understand completely, Ashton. This is just paperwork. What matters is our commitment to each other." Her words reassured me, but changes in her social circle soon gave me new reasons for concern. Sophia had always maintained close friendships with women from college and her early career years. Women who, like her, had built their success from the ground up. Increasingly, these friends were being replaced by the wives and girlfriends of wealthy businessmen and entrepreneurs. There was nothing inherently wrong with these new friendships, but I noticed how they centered around luxury experiences: exclusive spa days, shopping trips to New York, champagne lunches at members-only clubs. Sophia's social media, once filled with thoughtful content about marketing trends and occasional personal posts, became a showcase of her increasingly lavish lifestyle. During a dinner with my oldest friend Jake, he asked a question that caught me off guard. "Is everything okay with you and Sophia? She seems different lately." Different how I asked, though I knew exactly what he meant. He hesitated. "She just seems more focused on the trappings of success than the woman I met 2 years ago. Last week at your birthday dinner, she spent 20 minutes showing my wife photos of your planned honeymoon villa and talking about the private chef you would have. That does not sound like the Sophia you fell in love with." I defended her, of course. The wedding planning was stressful, and everyone wants to talk about their honeymoon. But his words stayed with me. A few weeks later, I came home early from a business trip and overheard Sophia on the phone in our bedroom. I did not mean to eavesdrop, but what I heard made me freeze in the hallway. "Of course I am excited about the wedding," she was saying, "but honestly I am more excited about finally securing the bag. 3 years is a long time to invest, but the payoff will be worth it." She laughed at whatever the person on the other end said. "No, he has no idea. He still thinks I am the same girl he met at that charity thing. Men see what they want to see." I quietly backed away and left the apartment, telling myself I must have misinterpreted what I had heard. Sophia loved me. We were building a life together. Surely, securing the bag was just a thoughtless joke about marriage in general. But the seed of doubt had been planted. In the following weeks, I found myself noticing things I had previously overlooked. Credit card statements with charges at high-end stores that Sophia had never mentioned. Shopping bags hidden in the back of our storage closet. A growing insistence that we needed to upgrade our already luxurious lifestyle. A bigger apartment, a summer home, a different car. When I attempted to discuss these concerns, Sophia had a way of making me feel unreasonable. She would point out that her spending was minimal compared to my net worth, or suggest I was being controlling about money. The conversations inevitably ended with me apologizing and reassuring her that I was not questioning her integrity. But privately, the questions multiplied. The breaking point came exactly 2 weeks before our wedding. I had a routine meeting scheduled with David to review some final paperwork. I expected it to be a brief procedural conversation. So the revised prenup terms are all set for the wedding, David said as he organized some documents on his desk. Though I am surprised you decided to make such significant changes at this stage. What changes? I asked, confused. We finalized everything months ago. David looked up, his expression changing from professional detachment to concern. The revisions your fiancée sent over 3 weeks ago, he said slowly. She said you had discussed making the agreement more equitable given your upcoming marriage. I felt a chill run through me. I need to see these revisions immediately. David handed me a document with highlighted sections. As I read, my stomach tightened. The revised agreement removed virtually all protections for my business interests, entitling Sophia to 50% of my company shares in the event of a divorce, regardless of how long we were married. It eliminated the distinction between premarital assets and marital assets, making everything subject to division. It even included a clause regarding my parents' property in Colorado, which had nothing to do with our marriage. How did this happen? I asked, my voice barely steady. David explained that Sophia's attorney had sent the revisions, stating they had been approved by me in principle and just needed to be formalized. Because they came through official legal channels, and because Sophia had claimed I was aware of the changes, David's team had begun processing the revisions. Fortunately, nothing had been finalized without my signature. I need copies of all communications about this, I said, and I need to know what else might have been altered without my knowledge. What followed was a systematic review of all our legal and financial documentation. David assisted in checking whether any other documents had been tampered with while I sat in his office trying to process the implications of what I had discovered. The woman I planned to marry in 2 weeks had attempted to secretly alter our prenuptial agreement to gain access to my business and family assets. The betrayal was so profound I could barely comprehend it. I drove home in a daze, unsure of how to proceed. Part of me wanted to confront Sophia immediately, but my business instincts told me to gather more information first. I called Jake, the only person I could trust completely with this situation. You need to know what you are dealing with before you confront her, he advised. If she is willing to do this, what else might she be hiding? The next day I contacted a private investigator recommended by David Firm. I felt uncomfortable invading Sophia's privacy this way, but I needed to understand the full scope of her deception before making any decisions. Within 3 days, the investigator returned with findings that shattered any remaining illusions I had about my relationship. Sophia had been engaged once before to Martin Blackwood, the CFO of a shipping company, just 6 months before meeting me. That relationship had ended suddenly with no explanation on her social media or to mutual friends. More disturbing was the discovery that she had begun consulting with Renee Harper, a self-described divorce coach who specialized in helping women maximize settlements from high-net-worth husbands, just 4 months into our engagement. The investigator had also uncovered text exchanges between Sophia and her friend Tara discussing their financial strategy. Just make sure everything is in place before the wedding, Tara had written. Once that ring is official, half of everything he has is potentially yours. He also found evidence that Sophia had photographed my personal financial documents and emailed them to herself and to Natalie Schwartz, her attorney. Each revelation felt like another body blow. I had given this woman my trust, my love, my home. I had shared my dreams and vulnerabilities with her, and all along she had been calculating the financial return on her investment in our relationship. I spent a sleepless night considering my options. I could confront Sophia with what I knew and see how she responded. Perhaps there was an explanation that could salvage something from the wreckage of my trust. Or I could end the relationship, immediately cutting my losses before legally binding myself to someone capable of such deception. By morning, I knew what I needed to do. I would give Sophia the opportunity to explain herself, but I would approach the conversation with clear eyes, free from the emotional manipulation that had become a pattern in our relationship. I made dinner reservations at our home that evening, asking our regular chef service to prepare Sophia's favorite meal. I wanted the confrontation to happen in private, away from public eyes. Sophia arrived home from a dress fitting in high spirits, talking excitedly about how perfectly the final alterations had turned out. I listened and nodded, feeling as though I were watching a performance now that I could see behind the curtain. After dinner, as we sat with glasses of wine in the living room, I took a deep breath. I met with David yesterday, I said calmly. He showed me the revised prenup that your attorney submitted, the one that would entitle you to half my business and access to my family property. Her expression shifted rapidly from confusion to surprise to a calculated neutrality. There must be some mistake, she said. I did not authorize any changes. I slid copies of the emails across the coffee table. These came from your attorney, specifically stating you and I had discussed the revisions and I had agreed to them in principle. She glanced at the papers, but did not touch them. That is not what I told Natalie. She must have misunderstood. I kept my voice steady. The private investigator also found these text messages between you and Tara, and these emails where you sent photographs of my personal financial documents and your consultations with Renee Harper about maximizing your divorce settlement from me, the man you are supposed to love. Her face hardened then, the pretense dropping away. You had me investigated. How dare you invade my privacy like that? How dare I? You were planning to defraud me, Sophia. You attempted to alter legal documents without my knowledge. You have been strategizing about how to take my assets since shortly after our engagement. She stood up, pacing now. You are so paranoid. This is all being blown completely out of proportion. Yes, I consulted with Renee, but that was just to understand my rights. Any smart woman would do the same. Your rights, I repeated. Your right to take half my company that I built years before I met you, your right to my parents' property. For a moment she looked trapped. Then her eyes filled with tears, a transformation so rapid it could only be tactical. I am scared, Ashton, she said, her voice breaking perfectly. Your family has never fully accepted me. The prenup was so one-sided. I just wanted some security if things did not work out. The performance was impressive. A week earlier I might have been swayed by it. Now I saw it for what it was, manipulation. The original agreement was fair, I said. It protected both of us appropriately. These changes you tried to sneak through would have entitled you to assets you have no legitimate claim to. Her strategy shifted again, this time to anger. And why should not I have a claim to them? Do you have any idea what it is like to be with someone like you? The constant scrutiny, the expectations having to look perfect all the time I have put up with so much shaped my entire life around you. That deserves compensation. In that moment of unguarded fury, she revealed her true perspective on our relationship. It was not a partnership, it was a transaction. And I was the commodity being traded. So, that is what the last 3 years have been about, I asked quietly. Compensation? She must have realized her mistake because the tears returned immediately. No, of course not. I love you, Ashton. I just got bad advice from Natalie and Renee. This was all a terrible misunderstanding. But it was too late. I had seen behind the mask, and I could never unsee it. You should stay with Tara tonight, I said. I need some time to think. You cannot be serious, she said, panic edging into her voice. The wedding is in 2 weeks. Everything is paid for. People are flying in from all over. I will handle the logistics, I said. Right now I need space. She left reluctantly, taking an overnight bag and promising to call me in the morning. As I watched her go, I felt a strange mixture of devastation and relief. The relationship I thought I had was gone, but at least I had discovered the truth before legally binding myself to her. The next morning I called David and asked him to draft a formal letter terminating the engagement and explaining that the wedding would not take place. I instructed our building security to revoke Sophia keycard access and arranged for her belongings to be packed and stored securely until she could arrange removal. These practical steps provided a framework for moving forward when emotionally I was still reeling. I then began the painful process of notifying family and close friends that the wedding was canceled. I kept the explanation simple and private, saying only that fundamental trust had been broken. Most expressed shock but offered immediate support. My parents flew in from Colorado the next day. Their presence was a comfort, but it was my father's words that helped crystallize my path forward. You made the right decision, son, he said. A marriage built on deception was never going to bring you happiness, no matter how much you loved her. Sophia's response to the termination letter was a barrage of calls, texts, and emails cycling through pleading anger and manipulation. When I remained firm in my decision, she launched what could only be described as a reputation management campaign on social media, portraying herself as the heartbroken victim of a controlling, paranoid man who had cruelly abandoned her before their wedding. Friends forwarded me screenshots of her posts, which carefully crafted a narrative that painted her as devoted and blindsided. She was vague enough about the specifics to avoid defamation while clearly positioning herself as the wrong party. I refused to engage in a public back and forth. My attorney advised me to document everything but maintain a dignified silence. Meanwhile, we began the process of legally securing my assets and reclaiming items of significant value that had been conditional gifts. Under law, engagement rings and other substantial gifts given in contemplation of marriage are typically considered conditional gifts. When Sophia refused to return the 3-carat engagement ring valued at over $100,000, David sent a formal demand letter. Similar notices went out regarding the luxury car I had purchased for her and several pieces of expensive jewelry. Her response was predictable. She claimed these were unconditional gifts given out of love, and she had no obligation to return them. When my attorney indicated we were prepared to pursue legal action, she reluctantly agreed to return the items, though the ring mysteriously developed a substantial scratch on the platinum band before being surrendered. While dealing with these practical matters, I discovered Sophia had already booked what she termed her bounce-back vacation to Bali, using my credit card for the $50,000 private villa rental. I canceled the reservation and all of her authorized user cards immediately. The financial entanglements were straightforward to resolve compared to the emotional aftermath. Despite the clear evidence of her deception, I still found myself questioning how I could have been so thoroughly fooled. Had there been signs from the beginning that I had missed? Was there anything real in our relationship at all? These questions haunted me in the weeks following the canceled wedding. I threw myself into work during the day, but evenings in the penthouse we had shared were difficult. Every corner held memories now tainted by the knowledge that they might have been performances designed to advance her agenda. Jake and a small circle of true friends provided crucial support during this time, ensuring I was never alone for too long with my thoughts. They organized dinners, a weekend fishing trip, even a basketball league to keep me occupied and connected. 2 months after the broken engagement at my therapist's suggestion, I decided to take a solo trip to recalibrate. I chose Japan, a place I had always wanted to visit, but Sophia had never been interested in. The 3 weeks I spent there, moving from Tokyo to Kyoto to small coastal towns, provided the perspective I needed. Away from the familiar and the painful associations of home, I began to process the experience more objectively. I acknowledged that while Sophia's ultimate intentions had been calculated, there had likely been genuine moments between us. People are complex, capable of real connection, even while harboring ulterior motives. More importantly, I recognized that my own desire to believe in the relationship had made me susceptible to manipulation. I had ignored subtle warning signs, dismissed uncomfortable feelings, and rationalized behavior that should have raised concerns because I wanted so badly to have found my person. When I returned to Chicago, I felt ready to truly move forward. I sold the penthouse, unwilling to continue living in a space so connected to betrayal, and purchased a loft in a different neighborhood. The new place reflected a different aesthetic, more warm woods and natural materials, less chrome and glass, a physical manifestation of the changes I was making internally. At work, my renewed focus resulted in innovative directions for SecureShield. The personal upheaval had somehow clarified my professional vision, and the company began expanding into promising new markets. 6 months after the broken engagement, I received a text from Sophia, the first contact since the legal matters had been resolved. "I hope you are doing well," it read. "I am sorry for how things ended. I was not my best self with you. I considered the many possible responses, from ignoring it completely to expressing the anger I still occasionally felt. In the end, I opted for simple closure. I appreciate the apology. I hope you have found whatever it is you are looking for. I wish you well." Her attempt to reopen communication helped me realize how far I had come. The person who had once been the center of my world now felt like a character from someone else's life, a cautionary tale rather than an open wound. The experience fundamentally changed how I approach relationships. I developed a deeper appreciation for authenticity and consistency between words and actions. I became more attuned to my own intuition, those subtle internal signals that something is not quite right. But perhaps the most unexpected outcome was a new appreciation for the genuine connections in my life. The friends who showed up without judgment, the family who offered unconditional support, the colleagues who respected my privacy while making it clear they had my back. These relationships took on new significance. I realized that true connection is not about grand gestures or picture-perfect moments. It is about being seen and accepted for who you really are, flaws and all. It is about building trust through consistent honesty, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Today, I am cautiously open to the possibility of love again, though, with clearer eyes and stronger boundaries. I know that the right relationship will not require me to ignore red flags or silence my intuition. It will feel like peace, not performance. The prenuptial agreement that Sophia tried to manipulate ultimately saved me from a much more painful and costly divorce. But the greater protection came from listening to that quiet voice of doubt that I had been trying so hard to silence. Sometimes the most important decision is not who to trust, but when to trust yourself. Have you ever had an experience where your intuition was trying to warn you, but you ignored it? What happened, and what did you learn? Share your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe for more real-life experiences about navigating relationships and learning hard lessons. And remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most important beginnings. Thank you for listening to my story today.